George Mills Jr., the inventor of the infinity chip, and the second wealthiest man ever, died nearly a year before I was made. His coffin was unusual. It would rotate rather like a kebab spit, so that it could be said that he was turning in his grave. This is what it says on George Mills Jr.'s gravestone. A taste for dirty stories may be said to be inherent in the human animal. George Moore, 1888. He was buried on Easter Island along with 600 of his favourite wives. Aloha. George Mills Jr. had 1,400 wives. He had called them all Sarah to avoid confusion. Each night one of his 1,400 wives had been sent a card inviting them to his bedroom. There they would watch TV for a bit, eat popcorn, and then make love. By 2022, there were 38 different brands of popcorn in any branch of Shop-a-Lot. Aztec priests used to wear amulets of stringed popcorn in religious ceremonies. They really did. American Indians were said to have brought bags of popcorn to the Plymouth Pilgrims for their Thanksgiving dinner in 1621. Edgar Malroy used to say that the old world should celebrate Thanksgiving too, because we had got rid of so many religious nuts when the American colonies were set up. One brand of popcorn we had on sale in the supermarket in 2022 was called Pope Corn and was distributed by the Vatican. The information on the packet stated that each piece of popcorn had been individually coated in sugar and blessed by a bishop. It also said on the packet that popcorn could be eaten as a snack anywhere, but was best eaten when watching one of Pope John John's many films. In 2022, 300 million pounds of popcorn were popped worldwide. George Mills Jr. bought, among other things, most of the south of France. When George Mills Jr. died, the stock market crashed, as a matter of course, and most of his wives changed their names. George Mills Jr. had a rather unusual funeral. It took place in the Barringer crater, which was at the time the largest crater on Earth. It was 1.2 kilometers in diameter and had been caused by a meteorite weighing 2 million tons crashing into the Earth around 40,000 years ago. George Mills Jr.'s body was placed in a coffin and surrounded by 50,000 orange plastic chairs cemented to the floor of the giant crater. The floor of the Barringer crater was 175 meters deep. Representatives from every country came to George Mills Jr.'s funeral, as did everyone with a last name beginning with E. Lots of people didn't get an orange plastic chair cemented to the floor of the giant crater to sit on. Speeches were read out, tributes made, scores settled. Pope John said that George Mills Jr. had been a very wealthy man, with a taste in music and a lot of wives. The Dalai Lama laughed so hard his false teeth fell out. The UN Secretary General said this of George Mills Jr. He was like a great big blue pill. It sure as hell worked, but it had pretty bad side effects. And what was the illness? Everyone wanted to know how George Mills Jr. had invented the infinity chip, but nobody ever found out. Then 700 alpine yodelers started to yodel like mad, and 500 Indian elephants performed a small dance routine in the middle of the crater. Halfway through the elephant routine, from launch silos in America and Russia, hundreds of intercontinental missiles were launched into the upper atmosphere. Back in the crater, the elephants received a standing ovation. This was followed by a coloured water display by the New York Fire Department. After that, the entire Scandinavian Air Force flew over the crater and dropped a total of 10,000 rubber ducks, each equipped with a parachute and a tape recorder, which automatically played Bustin' Surfboards by the Tornadoes once the ducks dropped below 5,000 feet. As the tape recorders began playing, a massive radio transmission was set out into space from the world's largest radio telescope, the Arecibo in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's main exports in 2022 were processed sugar and vacuum cleaner parts. The message was as follows. I, George Mills Jr., died on 14th of January 2022. I was the wealthiest, cleverest, kindest man ever to live on this world. I'm gone. You missed me. You're last. George Mills Jr. died of life. I was great. By the time the transmission, sent out on a wavelength of 21 centimeters, had finished, the intercontinental missiles launched from America and Russia were 7 miles above the Barringer crater. The intercontinental missiles exploded, sending hundreds of tons of crushed garlic into the air above the crater, and for months afterwards the Pacific Ocean tasted a bit funny. It really did. A helicopter then picked up George Mills Jr.'s coffin from the center of the Barringer crater, its rotor blades cutting into the falling cloud of crushed garlic, and carried George Mills Jr.'s remains to Easter Island. 2 days later, everyone on Earth was sent a photograph of the second wealthiest man ever.